Welcome back to the Yoga Chat. I'm your host, Montana,
I'm your host, May.
and I'm so excited. My best friend in the whole world is our guest today. So we have the one and only Vicki McWilliams. Vicki took yoga as a young child and then picked it back up in college. She was born in Oklahoma, grew up in Arizona, and lives in Pennsylvania now. And a fun fact about Vicki is that she is obsessed with pickles, which is the truth. She is. So welcome, Vicki. Hi.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Of course. So excited to have you. Um, Before we dive in, because your fun fact was about pickles, this weekend specifically, I brought this up so many times to Matt. Matt's like very smart and a lot smarter than I am in terms of like facts and like books and like history and all that kind of shit. And like the one thing that I have him on is that he thought pickles were grown underwater off of docks in Greece. In Greece. He even went as far to like have this story be like, I just imagined these like, like what are they called? Sponge divers, and there's pickle divers, and they're like on the coast of Greece. And I'm like,
Oh,
I am never letting you live this one down.
I like that he had a specific place too,
A
like
whole
why
story.
Greece?
Is that
Yeah,
just
I
a
know.
story he made up, like in his head, or did he hear it somewhere?
I, I, he had to have made that up. And I am the one who told him like 6 years ago, 8 years ago, that pickles are in fact cucumbers.
I actually
It was
made
mind blowing.
my mom gave me like some pickle, I don't even know what it's called, like seasoning where you can like make it yourself essentially. So it was like cloves and all this stuff.
Oh,
It's
yum.
like dry. It's like I still have a bunch of extra, but I made some pickles. It actually turned out really good.
Yum.
Yeah.
How long do you have to let them sit? And what do you put them in? Just water or like oil?
Vinegar, water,
Vinegar.
Vinegar.
salt, and then
Okay, cool.
the like, why can't I think like spices? Like, why
Yeah,
can
yeah,
I not
yeah.
think of that word? Spices, yeah. So apparently you could let them sit like 1 hour, and I tried it and they weren't very good. So then I let them sit like a couple weeks and they were really good after that.
Yum.
Yeah.
I love a good pickle. I had
Me
fried
too.
pickles when we got home from the airport, and that's what brought this up yesterday.
Yummy.
Yeah, it was really good.
If fried pickles are on a menu, I'm
I'm
ordering
ordering
them.
them.
Doesn't
Same.
matter where I am or what I'm doing. Like there is literally nothing better than dipping fried pickles in like a homemade like ranch.
Hmm.
And I'm sorry if
Mm.
that's awful for pickle lovers, but ranch is like the combo of the two is
I agree with
Interesting.
that.
I've
perfection.
never done that. Yeah.
It's
Next
really
time you go
good.
anywhere with fried pickles on the menu, try it.
Oh, I done fry. Okay, yeah, actually, I was picturing just like a regular pickle and ranch.
Oh, no, no,
I've
no.
done
That's
fried
really
and
good
ranch.
too, but
Fried
I've
and
never
ranch
done it.
makes it. Yeah.
All right.
Montana, should we ask her the very important
Yeah,
question
I
that we keep
almost
forgetting to
forgot.
ask everybody? And right before we signed in, I was like, Montana, we can't fucking forget the big three. So, Vicky, what is your big three astrological signs?
Yeah, so I'm a Capricorn sun, I'm a Virgo moon, and I'm a Libra rising.
Oh, okay.
So I
So
got
you're
that
like
Earth.
super stoic and you plan shit and you're also fun and giggly sometimes. Is that
Yeah, that sounds
accurate?
about right.
Yeah. Vicky is when Erin, who was on an episode in season one, The Astrologer, when she was first going through her astrology school, she was like, I use Montana as like the poster child for Sagittarius. And she's like, but Vicky helped me realize that like sun signs aren't always like Montana, the Sagittarius. Because Sam, our friend Sam, who's also been on the podcast, she is like the quintessential Capricorn, and Vicky is not like the normal Capricorn that you like read about on Instagram.
Yeah, Aaron helped explain this to me a little bit. I think it's partially due to Capricorn being mainly in like mainstream portrayed as like um just the earth portion of it, and it's kind of
Mm.
like, whatever, like, the generalizations like money, working hard, which, yes, but it also has a like a mermaid tail, and so maybe that's like the portion that doesn't get looked at as much, where it's like that tail that's like in the waters, like connecting you to like, you know, the subconscious a little bit more, and maybe I like kind of fall more towards that side of things.
Yeah. Well,
Thank
I love you, my Capricorn. Um,
you.
all right. So will you tell our listeners, um, just a little bit about your background, like where you come from and what originally led you onto a yoga mat and how it shows up in your life nowadays.
Yeah, so I was born in Oklahoma in a small town, and my grandmother and my aunt um, are dancers. My aunt and her had a dance studio, so I grew up dancing there. And my aunt also taught yoga, so we would do like dance classes, and then late night, my aunt would hold a yoga class, and for whatever reason, I have no idea, I would always like beg to stay and take the yoga class. I think it's just because I thought my aunt was super cool, so I just like wanted to do whatever she was doing. That's probably why. So I would stay and take this yoga class with like all these adults and just me. And then my aunt would drive me home. So I remember liking it then, like thinking it was really fun because all the shapes were so different that we were like creating with our bodies than dance was. And yeah, I remember thinking it was just fun. And then when I went to college, obviously later on in life, I had a friend, like a girlfriend, be like, let's go to yoga class together. And I was like, oh, okay. I haven't done that in a really long time. And I remember like as soon as I stepped foot in there and I smelled like the Nag Champa, I was like where like I can't believe I haven't been doing this. It just helped me with anxiety, honestly, so much. And I remember even if I was feeling really stressed out, doing homework or whatever, I went and got that Nag Champa and lit it, and it would help me just enter that same headspace outside of the yoga room. So yeah, that kind of jump started me getting back into yoga.
Yeah. And
Were
Vicky,
you,
go ahead.
sorry, were you like an anxious kid at all? Like, did it help you as a kid, or was that just the anxiety along with college?
Just and
I don't remember the yoga particularly helping with anxiety as a kid.
Okay.
I was definitely a perfectionist, but yeah, I don't like have that like that memory of that connection. It's possible it was there. It was just so long ago that I actually don't really recall.
yeah. Vicky, can you tell us a little bit about like, because I think that this, like, where you come from in terms like after you moved to Arizona, started dancing a little bit more seriously. Um, it had like a really big impact on like how transitioning back into yoga in the asana at least was like very seamless, but also hard in a different way.
Yeah, so after college, I had moved to Chicago and I was trying to dance professionally. And I did somewhat, did some works, freelance and whatnot. Um, and same thing in Chicago, yoga was definitely my saving grace. I had a studio that I could walk to from my house, and it really saved me and helped me just same exact thing, work through the anxiety, work through the stress that I was feeling, all the pressure I was putting on myself at the time. Um, and I had made the decision to move back to Pittsburgh when I realized that dancing wasn't in alignment with my greatest good and my soul's purpose on this world. So I had moved back to Pittsburgh, which is where I went to college. And you, Montana, were super interested in doing YTT, and you found the studio that we both ended up doing it through. And I think I had signed up for it without even going to a class there. You were just like, this is the one, I'm gonna do it. You should totally do it with me. I was like, yeah, okay. And I just signed up, I just did it. Um, yeah, and then I've been teaching yoga ever since, and it's continued to be a safe place. It's kind of like it's interesting. I feel like yoga is the was like the gateway for me to
Hmm.
enter into this world of like everything I love so much, and it remains to be the foundation of like what keeps me, I don't know, grounded, sane here.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about like the other things that you do? Like you alluded to how yoga sort of was a springboard for everything that you're interested in, and honestly, like all the work that you do now too. So can you talk a little bit about what the next steps that you took, like the other paths essentially that you were interested in opening up for yourself outside of yoga that are still in the branch of like health and wellness?
Yeah, so um I I do too many things, but also just the right amount. I
Yeah.
think I have a lot of passions and a lot of interests, and I really like to learn, so it's pretty easy for me to hear about something new and, like, kinda get obsessed and really go down the rabbit hole and start, researching and getting books on that subject, so there's quite a bit of things that I'm interested in and learning about. But the things I do more seriously and actually kind of follow it for a career path. So I am also trained as a doula. So I'm a birth attendant and I help women through the birthing process. I right now pretty much just do home births with some birthing center births as well. And yeah, yoga actually is extremely helpful in that space. Just, I think, understanding energy and people's energy and also breathing is just a massive part of the birth of birth in general. And it's something I've had a lot of feedback on is holding space and helping people breathe are like two things that I get feedback on a lot that, the women were um, happy that I was there to help them do. And then I'm currently in school to study traditional naturopathy. So I'm gonna see where that road leads as well. And that's like a whole big can of worms because there's a lot to that, but it's very exciting.
Yeah, that's so cool. So we've talked about Tracy O'Neill on the podcast before, and she is
Mhm,
the like a homeopathic doctor, May, that Lydia found, and that so
mhm,
many of our like friends from that part of the community have seen. But at the same time, when Lydia found her, Vicky was also like, I found this doctor from a totally different part of my life. And so I was like, oh my God, okay, I have to go meet this woman. So the
mhm.
school that Vicky's going to right now is the same school that she went to, right?
Correct.
And
Yeah.
she's on my list. Like I want to have Tracy on
Ooh,
this. Yeah,
yeah. That'd be a
right.
good person to have on for sure.
Yeah, she's so amazing. Me and Lydia at least say that she looks like Martha Stewart. She looks like a real estate agent, but then she's like a witch doctor.
That's so true. That's awesome.
Yeah, she like when she like evaluates you, the like knock that she does with her hand.
Mm,
And I'm
mhm.
like, I don't know what you're doing, but I feel like you're doing some cool shit.
Yeah, she definitely
You're-
inspired me because she helped me so much too with some health things that I was going through. So that was like a big yeah, stepping stone, I think, when I went and saw her and just seeing how much it helped me in such a short amount of time. I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so kind of going in a different direction, but I just thought of this question. Obviously for those of you listening, you all know if you've listened to any podcast, any of our episodes, that I also grew up dancing. That's where Vicky and I originally met each other. And the transition from like dance to yoga, I've talked a lot about, and how there was like, in some ways it was, um, easy, and other ways it really like was humbling. So for you, what was it like transitioning from like that like sort of strenuous work on our in our with our bodies, and like learning how like, oh, this practice doesn't have to be a that like I used dance for my body. And for what it's worth too, I'm gonna throw you under the bus. Vicky was a what, a level 9?
And
A level 10. I
I was a
fucking
shitty level 10 though.
no, you weren't. She was
I
a
only
level 10
competed
gymnast.
yeah, I was kind of a crappy level 10 though, because I really only competed 2 events at that level. So really like a good level 9 and like a kind of struggling level 10, but yeah.
But still, like, I know what it feels like to have like put my body through what I put it through in dance, and not just like the physical part of it, but like the mental part of it. And just like that's something that I'm just gonna have to deal with for the rest of my life because it's a part of who I am now, the constant
Mhm,
ebb and flow of like being healthy in a way that's not restrictive.
mhm,
So you, I feel like it's at least at some point in your life took it to a different and even more extreme, because gymnasts, from my like outside opinion, you know, are even more strenuous on their bodies than dancers, depending on, who it is and what they're doing. So
mhm.
yeah, it was a really long way to ask the question, but did the question make sense?
Yeah, I feel like I feel like I have a lot to say, and at the same time, I have no idea how I'm gonna possibly remember and cover everything that I like was starting to pop into my mind as you were asking the question. Oh my gosh. Okay, so the first thing that I think of is for me, and I know that this is like very much so my experience and doesn't have to be anybody else's. For me, yoga was like felt a lot safer. Like I felt way more held, like it was like a warm embrace. Um, and it was a way for me to continue and express and almost like work, if that makes sense, in a creative way. Um, that was just more, that felt more supportive and it felt more like a big hug. I feel like dance, I was able to be creative. And if you've danced before, even in your like your shower or your living room, maybe you've felt this where it's kind of like a moment where your brain turns off and you're just moving and it's like this very intense but amazing blissful feeling where like I get all tingly and I just feel, really like uninhibited in a way. And I felt that with dance, but it wasn't like supported in the way I wanted it to be. And I find that I can still find that with yoga, but in a more kind of supportive way. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And it does still give you that, you're working your ass off feeling, which I came to know and love through all my all my work as a gymnast and a dancer. And I think that's to do with reward. Like, I don't know, if you work hard, you feel good after. It feels like you accomplished something. Um, helps you like trust yourself, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah.
It's funny you said that. I randomly, it's hard as a yoga teacher. I'm sure you guys can relate to a degree that, finding that balance of like you said, people do come to yoga to work their asses off sometimes,
Hmm.
and there is like a branch, or there are always voices and comments and opinions that, yoga is always supposed to be incredibly gentle and um but I randomly, I forget who it was a yoga teacher, a famous one on Instagram that was just talking about how like yoga isn't always gentle. It's not always supposed to be gentle. It can be challenging. It can push you past your limits. Like that's part of the practice. Like the challenge of, like you just said, like the reward of doing something harder than you thought you could do, and then how you come out the other side, or how you can breathe and remain calm and keep your even breath during those challenging moments. But I like to hear teachers and people that say like yoga can be hard and it feels good when it's hard. And some people come for that. And that's also part of the practice. It's not always gentle and sweet. But you, like you said, even in the challenging moments, I always still feel held. Like I like
Mhm.
that, use
Hmm.
that word, because I've never heard that word being used in that way, but it's how I feel. So
Mhm.
I can go to an incredibly challenging power class. I can be getting my ass kicked, but I still feel safe while I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Whereas there are a lot of, you know, physical endeavors I've taken that have felt challenging where I didn't feel safe while I was doing it. And I didn't feel I had the option I didn't have the autonomy over my body to choose when I wanted to take a beat. And I feel
Mhm.
like maybe I mean, I wasn't a dancer, but I feel like from what I've heard of dancing, you guys didn't always have the autonomy to take a minute if you needed it, or to be gentle with yourself if you needed a day where you were allowed to be or that you needed to be gentle with yourself. So I guess what I'm saying is like yoga is challenging, and it can be and it can't be, it might be, it might not be, but overall you always have like the decision on how challenging you want it to be on any given day. Whereas, as gymnasts and dancers, you guys pretty much just have to work yourself to the bone when you're told to, and there's not really a whole lot of like sweet support, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like as I've gotten older, like one of the things I value most in life is um like self-responsibility. Like when we choose to be responsible for everything. everything about ourselves, and we can expect others to be responsible for that as well. And I think that yoga helps you get there. Like every day you step onto your mat, you're learning to trust yourself more and more. And you have the freedom to do that and the space to do that and the
Mhm.
safety to do that on your yoga mat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're making the decisions and they're not
Mhm.
being made for you. And I think
Mhm.
that that's kind of like the magic sauce, that I guess we could say is the juice of the yoga, is just that you can come to an incredibly challenging class, but that doesn't mean you have to make it. It doesn't have to be as challenging that day as it is for the person next to you. It might never be, and that's okay. But I think that that like trust that you build within yourself to make the decisions that are right for you is just such like an important mix of what sets it apart from any other type of workout where you're just kind of like, listening to the instructor being told what to do. They're in your face and they're like, do it harder, do it faster. But in yoga, like there's not really any teacher, I would hope, I'm sure there are, that are going to come in your face and tell you to do it faster or harder or worse or whatever. But I love the trust that I have built within myself through yoga. And I think it kind of has spilled out into so many parts of my life where like now I know when I'm feeling something that I should pay attention to it and that I can do something about it and I don't have to ignore it. And I'm better suited to like help myself through those things than just ignoring them until I crash and burn.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a thought while you guys were both sharing too, like that it would be lovely if everything were just gentle and easy and rainbows and butterflies, but that's not the case. And so like it really is like a rep what I thought of when you guys were both sharing, the difference between like gentle versus like working hard. It's the yin and the yang, right? Like and that's why I think yoga is so much more beneficial than just the movement and the breath on our mat in the 60-minute class or 70-minute class or whatever. Because it's like for dance, we were always preparing for something. And then when we got to that thing that we had been preparing for, it was like, okay, this is the moment to like show what we've been preparing for. Where yoga, you're not preparing for anything except for your own mental space off the mat. So it's like the challenge shows up on the mat so that outside you're better equipped to like deal with challenges and to see the darkness and show it the light instead of, pretending like it's not there. Um and so that's what I think makes it so much more powerful again, like Vicky said, for me, um, than the other types of movement that I have done in the past and still continue to do now. Like I've gotten back into solid core and I've been doing it for like 6 to 8 months now and I love it so much, but when you get in there and it's not helping me mentally, or it's not helping me like you guys said, it is meant helping me mentally in a way that's like I can do hard things.
Mhm.
But it's not like it, I don't know, it's hard to explain because it's all it's not better or worse. It's also giving me what I was about to say, like it doesn't give me the ability to trust myself, but it actually does. Like when I think like I can't do one more rep on this stupid fucking reformer, and then I tell myself I'm gonna do one more, and then all of a sudden I do two more and then I fail. It's like it all has its pros and cons, but I think that's what the the balance between no matter what kind of movement you're doing, having the choice, like you guys were saying, the autonomy to decide, like I'm going to take this gently because it's what I need to balance, or I'm going to kick my own ass because it's what I need to balance.
Mhm.
And I think that's what yoga gives us the space to do is choose where on the scale of energy we need to be in order to find that balance again.
Yeah. And what's interesting too is, you can come take a yin class and it might be harder
Hmm.
than the vinyasa class, depending, on who you are and what you see as challenging. There are many people who I talk to, because I teach on Tuesday nights a vinyasa and then a yin, and a lot of people are like, "Oh, what's this next class?" And I explain, and they say, "Oh no, I can't do that. Like I can't just lay there." And like my mind will be going crazy. I'm like in the back of my head, I'm like, "Well, you might need it a little bit more than you
Yeah.
think you do." But it's funny how the different, things can be just as challenging in a completely different way. Um, yeah.
Yeah, I think
I've
that
done a total of like 30 minutes of yin in my entire life. And I I am one of those people that I found it incredibly challenging. Like,
Yeah.
we were in a long leg seat and we walked our fingers behind us with our fingers facing the back of our mat. And we were just, that's it. Like, that's it. If you were to look at somebody in this shape, you would be like, oh, they're just relaxing. I was dying. My arms were on fire, and the whole purpose of the pose was to straighten your arms because your elbows are pretty much always bent in some way or
Mm.
degree. And afterwards, we were all chatting about it, and I was like, "Was anyone else like dying in that one pose?" And they're like, "Yes, my arms are on fire." I was like,
Mm.
"Thank God it wasn't just me," but it's like you said, if you were someone walking by a room that saw a bunch of people doing that, you'd be like, "Oh, what a nice gentle stretch." And everyone in there was like, "Holy shit, like my arms are gonna fall off." And it's one of those things where I keep telling myself like I have to start going to yin because I know if it's that challenging to me, it's probably something I need to like conquer, not conquer, but
Do more of.
embrace.
Yeah.
Mm.
And so, but yeah, I could sit in a vinyasa class all day long and go fast and hard, and that's where my mind always is. So it's like my comfort zone, and being still with my thoughts, with shooting pains in my arms, that's
Mhm.
definitely not um my comfort zone. But like you said, when Montana was talking about solid core, the one thing that made me think of was what Vicky said about you didn't feel held. Like it was supportive in your own way. It felt good, but like I think that really is the word for yoga is like you feel
Yeah.
held when you're practicing yoga. I don't feel held when I'm in a spin class. I love it. It feels great in my body and it's like something I enjoy, but I don't feel held when I'm doing it. Solid core, I certainly don't feel held when I'm doing that. Like I'd rather hug a fucking cactus. I
Yeah,
recognize its, like, value, but it's hard,
Right.
it's different.
It's really hard.
and maybe that's to do with I'm no expert, but origins of yoga and the postures and
Mhm.
how each one is very specifically designed to set up the meridians and the energetic pathways in your body in specific ways. And um, it's very intentional and it's very spiritual. So,
Mhm.
of course, it will probably give you a little bit more of a warm, energetic feeling than just kind of,
Holding a plank. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, there's
Yeah.
different intention behind it for sure.
Yeah,
Speaking of
absolutely.
spiritual yoga and energy centers, don't you also teach Kundalini or you're certified to teach Kundalini yoga? So I always thought Kundalini yoga was sex yoga, and I know that's not true, but like that's how I equate the two things. Like Kundalini yoga is sex yoga. So can you
Mhm.
please debunk my myth or tell me that I'm right?
Yeah, so I am certified 200 in Kundalini yoga. Yeah, it's funny that Kundalini has like a lot of things said about it.
Hmm.
Like sometimes, yeah, people like tend to think it's very dangerous, and things like that, which obviously, through my training, we learned that that's really not the case as long as you're just like any other yoga practice, like as long as you're kind of doing it safely. I think it would be very hard to do it in a way where it would end up actually being harmful for somebody. Um, but yeah, what was your oh, just talking about it, debunking
Yeah, just
sex
so
yoga.
what exactly like what talk us through like a standard Kundalini like practice, like someone coming to your class and then the overall like meaning behind some of it or all of it.
Yeah, so I'd say obviously it's similar to vinyasa in that, we're creating shapes with our body to set ourselves up in a way where all the energy channels are, kind of like reconfiguring themselves so that energy can flow through the body in new ways. I'd say it just focuses on that a little bit more deeply than a vinyasa class. All of the postures are very almost animalistic and simple. It's a lot of repetitive movements to get specific results. And it's just like I mentioned, like really focus on those energetic pathways. So every single posture you take and the movement you pair with it is for an extremely specific purpose. So in Kundalini, they use something called kriyas, and most kriyas are like a combination of postures and movements that again kind of get that specific result. Um, and sometimes just one. movement could count as a whole Kriya if it's powerful enough. Other times it's going to be like a sequence of things. But it really works with the Kundalini energy as kind of the focus or the focal point. And if you're unfamiliar with Kundalini, it's essentially like an energy that sits at the base of your spine, and your spine has the Sushumna Nadi, which is the largest and central energetic pathway in the body. Kundalini, they explain it as almost like a snake coiled around the bottom. Within the nerves, there's like a nerve ganglia down there. So it's kind of coiled in that space. And it focuses on drawing energy up from the bottom, out through the top of the head and back around to help awaken that Kundalini energy. And Kundalini energy is a creative energy. It is a creative force. So that's probably where you hear, a sex energy, because perhaps it would awaken, that kind of a space. Sexual energy could be awakened there, but it's not for that purpose necessarily. Yeah.
Could you make it for that purpose? Like if you were if you were doing like a workshop of like you need to make a bunch of people horny. Like I know that sounds ridiculous, but like could you if you focused on certain movements and like kriyas, is that a thing that could happen?
I don't know. I think that could happen anywhere with anything, probably though, right?
This reminded me of when we were in the 300 hour, we were talking about bandhas and we were talking about mula bandha, and I'm like having everyone engage. I'm like the muscles that stop the flow of urine, and like whatever. And May May goes, I can't exactly remember what she said the first time, like her first question, she was being like dead ass serious, and then like realized how funny she sounded immediately. So she asked like,
Mhm.
is it something along the lines of like sexual? I don't remember what she said. And then she's like, oh, is anyone else feeling horny? And yeah, I was like, whatever. And I wish I could remember how she first asked it, 'cause she was like
Because
serious.
we were doing something where we were literally just like doing Kegels.
Kegels.
Engaging those
Yeah,
muscles
and I
like
was like, okay, so
Kolobanda.
we're all just sitting here squeezing our fucking junk, and
Yeah.
now I'm a little, aroused. I'm a human being, okay? And so I was just curious if that was like a thing, but I guess I'm just a friggin' weirdo.
I mean, I
No,
wouldn't be
but
surprised if people do that. Yeah.
Okay,
But it isn't something that I had, like learned, or they didn't like talk about
gotcha.
that in
Okay.
so many words anyways.
But
Yeah.
I think your answer was good too. Like you could do that with anything. Like you
Anything,
could
any
make
yoga.
anything, yeah. Like more like also, so Deborah Abrams, who's also been on the podcast, she came and spoke at our 300 hour, and she was talking about like depend also, this is kind of like full circle, because she was talking about knowing what type of yoga she needs. Like she has a teacher that she knows kicks her ass, and so like sometimes when she needs to get it out of her own head, she goes and takes that class where she gets her ass kicked. And she was like, but if I'm like stagnant and stale and I feel like lethargic, she's like, I just have to get on my mat and play some R&B and like move,
Mhm.
And we were
Just
all
like get
like,
sexy with it.
yeah, we were like, I was like, I don't know, but I'm picking up what you're putting down. Like you get all sexified with it on your
Yeah.
mat, I guess so.
So she inspired me after that conversation, and I like put on an album I consider to be sexy, and I was trying to do the thing, and I was just like, nope, I don't feel sexy. I do not feel sexy. This is not authentic to me in any way, but I tried. I definitely tried.
Well, it is neat with Kundalini too, because if you go on to or like there's many books with Kriyas and stuff, but you could even
Mhm.
Google probably Kundalini for XYZ or Kriya for XYZ, and you could find it. So it is kind of
Okay.
neat. So if you're feeling, sluggish, Kundalini to awaken, to energize the body, you
Yeah.
could find a Kriya for that. So it's pretty neat. You can find different Kriyas for lots of different situations, which I enjoy. And if um, they want you to, or like you're taught to stick to one Kriya every day. You're supposed to do it for 40 days, and that's how you're supposed to get the best results.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, sort of like, what is it? Like the cycle to like build a new habit, and
Yeah.
for, like things to like change within your body, essentially
Mhm.
for like shifts to happen and change to happen, it takes 40 days. So if you're like stuck on something within your mind or whatever it might be, if you're doing that Kriya that's working on that thing you're stuck on for 40 days, you're going to shift out of it.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
Yeah.
So it's like a commitment. It's not like you walk into class and take one Kundalini class and suddenly your energy is completely different. It's just like like anything, you have to keep doing it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm certain you would feel a shift after one class, just like with
Okay.
any energy or like any yoga class, but yeah, for like optimal benefits, it is recommended to try and do the same one for 40 days.
All
Yeah.
right. Have you ever had anybody like, or have you ever, when you first were introduced to Kundalini, like did you go take a class and did you feel your energy shift like right away and it just really sparked an interest immediately?
Mm. Yeah, it was during COVID times, and I somehow stumbled upon Guru Singh. And I remember just what he was speaking on and the way he was doing yoga I hadn't really heard of before. And it just piqued my interest. So I started doing some like virtual classes with him. Yeah, and I was like, wow, it just felt really powerful and really special. So I started doing it really frequently and decided that I wanted to get certified. Um, and yeah. I think I had
Do you
something else to say, but
currently,
it totally escaped my mind.
no, it's okay. Do you currently teach a Kundalini class or not at the moment?
Not at the moment. Yeah, I was
Okay.
teaching for a little while, but yeah, not at the moment.
Okay.
For what it's worth, May, just so like, and anyone that's taken Collective Move and Flow in Pittsburgh with Catherine or myself, um, when I first taught Collective Move and Flow to the South Hills, the Yoga Flow in South Hills, there was this guy who would come all the time. His name's Rohan. He just moved. So, but anyways, he um was from India, or is from India, and loves Kundalini yoga. And afterward, he was like, that kind of felt like standing Kriyas. And I was like, oh, that is a great way to describe this to people that like know Kundalini. So like the stuff that we do in Collective Move and Flow is it's like it's the, like Vicky said, like the repetitive movement with the intention of like shifting specific energy
Hmm.
lines or currents within your body. And I mean, that I've never taken like a full out Kundalini class, but I would love to. But even just knowing that like the little tidbits of a variation of standing Kriyas that aren't really standing Kriyas, like that, I feel the effects of that way of moving drastically. Like it feels so cathartic to me.
It really
Um,
stirs it up.
yeah,
That makes sense because I feel like every time I've ever taken Collect Move and Flow, I've wanted to cry afterwards, but not like I'm sad, but just kind of like I feel relief or
hmm,
something. It's just like a release. And I always wondered how I got emotional doing that, but maybe that's I just stirred up a bunch of shit and it needed to come out.
Yeah, also something that I just thought of that is a similarity with Kundalini and the collective move and flow, um, is the use of your voice. Like
hmm,
in Kundalini, it's a really huge part. You chant a ton. You chant in the beginning of class, you chant at the end of class, and then often you'll chant, a mantra over and over and over again for if in like a more traditional Kundalini class, at least like 10 to 15 minutes at the end of the practice. And you use a lot of your voice in collective move and flow too, not in exactly the same way, but still it's like that connection and the vibrations that
vibration.
yeah, the vibration that your voice creates, like absolutely has an effect on your body and your cells. So
Yeah, cool.
Makes a lot of sense.
It
People have a
does.
lot of shit to release and they don't even really know it, but it feels good to just, even if it's nonsense, to shout and to get things out of your body.
mhm.
Vicky, what is your favorite way to like practice as a student currently? What type
Mm.
of yoga or movement? Doesn't have to be
So
yoga.
if I'm going to a studio, I'm typically going to look for a vinyasa yoga class. If I'm at home practicing just on my own, I'm typically doing Kundalini. If,
Cool.
yeah, yeah. But
That's what I thought, because I was like, even though you're not like teaching Kundalini currently, like you're still practicing it, is what I
yeah,
was okay under the impression of.
yeah, I'll do it. I usually do it in the mornings.
Yeah.
Just like a little, I don't do anything too crazy, but just like a little something.
I took Vicky's class. I mean, I haven't taken Vicky's class in far too long, but this was like either during or after her 200-hour Kundalini. And I felt so cool. We were in like a vinyasa class and we were like doing this. So
Mhm.
yeah. So
Oh, did I
yeah,
did
yes.
I do that in a vinyasa class? That's funny.
Yeah, it was like part of the warm up. Um, but
What
it's
is this doing in Kundalini? Can you tell us?
Yeah, so that's just another move that's gonna help bring energy up the spine.
Okay.
Yeah, and obviously it's helping you rinse your body too, so feels
yeah.
nice, and balancing out the right and the left a little bit as well.
Yeah, it's good. And then the mantra linked to it, like I feel like especially in a setting when people are expecting to use their voices, it's like, all right, let's fucking go. But when you're not expecting to use your voice, it's at least for me, I can be like very timid at first before I'm just like, fuck it. And then dive in head first. But it
Mhm.
like takes a moment to get there. But for me, like I know I'm just reiterating what you said, but I, in my own experience, like have felt the effects of like actually using like even when we had you had us doing that mantra in class, like it wasn't like we were screaming or yelling our faces off, but like just getting into that like repetitive, um especially if it's Sanskrit, it's like this what I'm speaking is so ancient and like has roots, like energetic roots far beyond than like where I'm at in comparison to all of it is like a penny, like a drop in the ocean. And it's just like it makes me feel so small but connected to this like larger thing. It's like it's kind of yeah, it's like I keep using the word cathartic, but it is. It's really grounding and humbling and it like yeah, I love utilizing my voice when I get past the point of discomfort.
Me
Before
too,
you
yeah.
get there, it's like this is so weird and I don't like it. This is
Mm-hmm.
so weird.
Yeah, it's so powerful once you just, like, let go.
Yeah.
I had
And when the
taught
whole, like, room lets go, and then, like,
Yeah.
when that one person who's super loud just gets everybody else to get out of their fucking heads and you're all doing it together, and that's, like you can, like that's like
Power.
we always talk about when you're at a good show and the energy is just, like, unbelievably good, and that's everybody just being on the same, like, wavelength, and I think, that's kind of always what sets apart, like, a good yoga class from, like, a really fucking great one is just like when everybody is all riding that same wave. It's really nice.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting too because, like, obviously using your voice and kind of, like, shouting, screaming, getting it out is, like, a really good way to, like, release and, like, let go of maybe, like, built up energy and help just get rid of that and kinda turn your, like, rest and digest back on,
Hmm.
like, that kind of, like, shake it off feeling. And at the same time, like you were saying, Montana, if you're using mantra, those words frequency is so high. And if you're chanting it, that vibration and frequency is coming into your body and helping every single cell vibrate at that same frequency. So it's healing your body in like a
On a
very
cellular level.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So true. Um,
Sounds so woo-woo, but it's so true. And
and it's
like
crazy. Sorry,
it
interrupted
is.
you.
No, but it is crazy, and, like, if you took someone who doesn't know anything about yoga or anything, and you take them to, like, a kundalini class, and suddenly they're like, I've been uncomfortable chanting in classes, and, like but then when you get past it, you recognize, like, there is a tried and true purpose behind why this is a thing and why it's, like, traveled through thousands of years and remains a thing. It's because it works, and if you really
Mhm.
think about, like, any culture from the beginning of time, they all have some tradition that involves like singing or chanting and dancing and it's like a connection to like who we are as humans. And I think that, you can call it woo woo and maybe it feels woo woo, but also like there's like a very, you know, animalistic, like, deep down connection that we have to, like, chanting and dancing that, like, is that kind of, like, part of being a human. Um, so whenever I start to find myself feeling like, "Oh, this is a little too woo-woo for me," I'm like, "No, this is a thing for a reason, and this is gonna
Mhm.
feel good if I just stop, over analyzing what I'm doing here and just doing it."
Yeah.
It's crazy that like this, it's to me, and it's not always been this way. I'm like, of course, there's moments where I'm like, oh, this is too much for me. But it's
Mhm.
crazy because it's like what is woo woo, quote unquote, is so like foundational. It's fundamental. We're literally talking about using our voice and moving our bodies. And like we've gotten so far from this like primal primitive way of being that like we see using our voices and moving our bodies as woo woo when really
Yeah,
it's
you're
like
right.
the foundation of what we are and what
Yep.
we're made
Well,
of.
totally, and, like, go read a physics book, like, they talk a lot about
Yeah.
frequency in physics, right? Like, you can't touch it, you can't, feel it, but it's definitely there.
Hmm.
So it's science. It's not even,
Exactly.
like, if you really, really dig into it deep enough, you'll realize that it's really not so woo-woo, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
All right. Well, our final question we always ask everyone is, do you think yoga can change the world? Yes or no, and why?
Absolutely. Yes, yoga can change the world for all the reasons we spoke of today. Um, to help shift your mindset, to help get you into a calmer space. I think that currently we have a stress epidemic, and there's not a single person I know who isn't suffering from stress and anxiety. It just kind of comes with society and where we're at right now as a society. Like, it's kind of impossible not to feel stress at least some point of your day. And that's a really big deal. Stress is really hard on your body. And it shouldn't be taken lightly. And yoga is like one of the most powerful tools we can use to de-stress, and therefore come into more whole body health and well-being. So I think that's a really big deal. Plus a billion other reasons why, but that's the main one that comes to mind.
Great.
The juice. The
Hmm.
Juice for
juice.
sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for spending some time with us, Vicki. Love you forever. Is there anything else that you want to share before we log off?
Um, Nothing comes to mind. Just thank you guys so much for having me. And I'm just sending everybody a lot of love, a lot of good energy. And yeah,
Tell us where we can find you on Instagram.
yes, Instagram. Um, I'm at Vicki Moonstone, PGH. Like, I think that's it.
I'm like, that's it, right?
Vicki Moonstone, PGH, Instagram, and yeah, that's the platform I'm on primarily. So
Amazing. All
yeah.
right. Well, wait, this is kind of, I know we're like about to end it, but how much longer do you have? How many more years do you have left of your traditional homeopathic schooling?
Yes, so it's actually pretty neat and unique in that it's three standalone programs that add up to the traditional naturopathic. So I have three, no, yeah, like 2.5, 3 months left, and I'll technically be a certified natural health practitioner. So I can already kind of work with that. And then it'll be about another 10 months, and I'll be a certified holistic health practitioner. And then be another about year, and I'll be a certified traditional naturopath. So
Cool.
technically about 2.5 years, but I can kind of do some stuff before then with the certifications that I'll get.
Yay. Well,
Yeah,
you already know,
Congrats.
sign me up. So
Yeah.
I'll need practice clients, so I'll be reaching out to
exactly.
everybody.
Yes, I would, I'll speak for me too. We will happily be your guinea pigs.
Yeah. I'll be a guinea pig.
Yeah, awesome.
All right. Well, love you guys.
Yeah,
Have a great day and thanks so much for your time.
of course. Thanks
Bye.
again. Bye.